hit her up on @Alberta Recruits if you want to know what the weather's like over there in the UK.
Yeah,
You might want to try that out. So speaking of the UK, as I was telling you, there was a gentleman that told me London is his favorite city by far. I think he said he was there 3 times last week.
Back and forth.
We have in the studio today David Cullen and Ed Hamler of Benefits Data Trust. These 2 gentlemen have really rode hard with the Career Seekers team. They came out to see me 2 weeks ago out in North Philly at the Honickman Learning Center. We just travel with information for career seekers. We take it anywhere, wherever they're at, we come correct and just bring it to them. So we were out in North Philly on Judson Street. As I had mentioned to you guys, they jumped out the car on me. It was it was like the old taxi days when your friends would jump out and then you're stuck with the figure. They jumped out, and then I realized that, you know what, it was cool. I was paying for that ride anyway, so it was good. I owed them that because they came out to help me support career seekers. So with that being said, 2 of I call them the dynamic duo. It's David Cullen, Ed Hamler. Let's do it, gentlemen.
I like that, the dynamic duo.
That's pretty accurate.
I think so.
Good afternoon.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
We're doing really well. Thank you so much for having us. We're always excited to work with you, Ken. It's always a pleasure. And to set the record straight, I mean, you did order the Uber.
I did.
So,
Yeah.
You set the destination.
I probably should have told them to drop me off first and then take you guys on the road together. But here's the thing, that there's always some beauty in everything that happens, because Dilworth Plaza was incredible that day. The kids were in the water fountains and everything. We were speaking about that. It was incredible. Awesome. So we got to talk about Dilworth on the show. So really, I was doing market research.
Yes.
I got out to do market research.
To observe
what was going on.
Right?
So as I walked down Market Street, I said, you know, I want to talk about Dilworth because it just looks so incredible. But speaking of looking incredible, we got you 2 in the studio today. And, man, I'm just excited because, you know, I know you guys moved to a new location in the city. I know you were in Center City, but you moved kind of closer towards the pulse of the city. You're right at the Clothespin building now. That's what they call it here in Philadelphia.
I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, I don't know what else to call it. But anyway, let's talk about it, man. How's everything going?
Things are going well, and I guess to kind of identify the voices here, I'm David Cullen. I'm the Talent and Culture Manager at BDT.
And I'm Ed Hamler. I'm the Talent Coordinator at Benefits Data Trust.
Yeah, so we just moved into a brand new office probably about 6 months ago. We were originally over at 2 Logan Square, and now we're at 1500 Market Street. And it's an incredible office, and I highly recommend anybody go to our website, bdtrust.org, and check it out. I mean, fun fact.
You have pictures of the actual office in there.
We got pictures of the office, great. And, you know, kind
it's
of...
a nice looking website, too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
You were on the website. Oh, you're on the website now. Tiff actually has internet access, and she's did something to my computer that caused me not to have it. I don't understand what it was.
Stories, lies, fallacies, and fairy tales. Okay. Anyway.
So I know when I was over there, you guys were still getting a little bit of work done, but pretty much I could see what was happening, and it was beautiful. You got to kind of look out onto City Hall and onto William Penn, actually. And I was like, man, this is incredible. I don't know if I would get any work done over there.
Well,
plus they have
it's so incredible that we won Coolest Office by Generosity just last week.
Yeah.
Ed was actually at the event and gave a little acceptance speech.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Ed gave the acceptance speech?
I gave the acceptance speech. I was happy it was not recorded. Thank you very much.
Very good. So you think until
until
it shows up in your next Google search of yourself. We're gonna hope that doesn't happen.
Point. Yeah, people record so much stuff.
We're gonna hope that doesn't
We're
happen.
recording it here now. So if you'd like to rehash that acceptance speech here for us, we're open to it.
I just might. Benefits Data Trust has the coolest office. Thank you very much, and good night.
Well done, well done.
I love it.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys do at Benefits Data Trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, Benefits Data Trust, I mean, so we're a not-for-profit social change organization, and we're essentially committed to transforming how individuals in need access public benefits and services. So we have a really innovative kind of service delivery model where, you know, we're really seeking to improve the lives of vulnerable individuals, the systems they navigate, and really the communities in which they live. I mean, we've infused over $135 million into the homes of low-income individuals every year. You know, allowing them to buy food, heat their homes, afford health care. You know, and how we really are able to do that is we rely on that kind of cross-sector partnerships and government healthcare providers, philanthropic entities, community-based organizations to kind of re-engineer the health and human service system, kind of really trying to make sure that we're making benefits access simpler, comprehensive, cost-effective. And we were kind of chatting a little bit earlier before we kind of went live and about how we use very much kind of private sector strategies. And, you know, we've kind of borrowed that kind of very data-driven approach to really be very effective in how we reach out to individuals who, you know, we think would most likely qualify for these benefits, and really getting the people that need the help that would normally maybe fall through the cracks. And, you know, through our kind of just our incredible team and the way we're able to do it, the way we kind of stay innovative and continue to think about new ways to do it, we've been really successful in doing that, and that's been really been a driving force that's allowed us to, you know, kind of show that we can do it and move into a new office and do this really, really great work. So, you know, we can't do it alone, obviously. That's why me and Ed are always here recruiting and thinking about new great people to bring on board, because we're growing so quickly. I mean, we grow 30% every year.
Wow.
30% you said?
Yeah, I mean, our new office can hold up to 300 full-time employees. We're right now about 185. So, you know, and I feel like we're probably going to get to 300 probably next Tuesday, I think. Maybe.
Probably by next Tuesday.
By next Tuesday. That sounds about right. It sounds like low-key, too.
It feels
like,
that way.
You know.
It was supposed to be in a couple of years. It's happening a lot quicker than that currently.
Yeah. So we feel like we're really fortunate that we are able to, both Ed and I, kind of represent the organization in ways, and we're always so proud to bring great people on board and introduce the organization, because we have a really, really great fun culture as well, which we really love to support.
Okay. So what kind of people do you look for to do this kind of work? Because it sounds, what I like about what you're saying, number one, you're focusing on helping people who are in need and who need help to access so many benefits that are available that they might not know how to navigate. So what kind of people do you look for to work for your organization? You mentioned a little bit about the culture, but also someone who must care about this kind of work in order to do the work that you guys do every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I mean, we definitely look for people who care authentically, you know. In nonprofits, but especially in the work that we do, it's difficult to maintain if you don't have a real care for people, you know, a real deep connection to want to help and serve. So, you know, that's number one is the service aspect of customer service, right? It is very important. Another aspect of it is just be a good person. You know, we have a lot of people at our organization that are social activists or socially conscious, you know, or just kind of interested in the direction humanity is going, you know, and that's also important because it creates a context for when they do the work, the specific work, they have a much broader context that's associated with mankind. If I get a little philosophical here.
Yes.
That's all right.
But I think those are at the beginning the kind of people that we're looking for, and the quality of people that we're looking for, and then we can get into skill sets and things like that. But there has to be that core.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important for us because you have to really be connected to what we're trying to do. And Ed recruits for our primary position, which is our benefits outreach specialist position, which is like our main kind of frontline direct service work, and they're speaking to our clients every day. And our clients are going through some really tough scenarios, so we look for individuals that are going to really be connected to that and be able to really empathize with somebody and connect with them and stay with them and really get them the help that they need. If you're not connected to that work, you're going to get burned out pretty quickly.
And it's hard. I mean, I think we're also looking for people that understand that service is hard. It's when I was young. When I was I was a teenager. I first got my start in service just working in my community, in North Philly, and I really got the bug to serve. But as you grow and you figure out what that means in action, you find out that it doesn't really end.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right. So you have to, at that point, you have to decide you're going to keep going with this, or you're going to do something else. So I think people who also have that sense of self-awareness and reality about it as well. Also comes in handy.
We were just speaking about the commitment to it, and when you guys were speaking a couple of weeks ago, and I think somebody threw out the question like, what's the average call time? And I think the response was, once you get it done or once you assist the customer, like they don't want every call to be an hour, but it's not uncommon in their space that you have a 40-minute call. And that's so different than what you get in a lot of other environments where people are trying to rush you off the phone. Like, I need you to get the next call off the queue. So I just thought it was really interesting and really just a culture thing, where it's a culture of caring, it seems like. And just, you know, from getting to know the both of you over the last year or so, I just, I guess, let me back up a little. So here's how I met David. Someone in one of my classes had told me about Benefits Data Trust, and they said, wow, this seems like a great company, I'd love to work for them, right? So they said, Ken, do you know anybody there? I said, I never even heard of them. So I go to LinkedIn, and I just look up Benefits Data Trust, and David's picture comes up, and his title at the time was Hiring Manager. I'm like, that's the guy we need to talk to. He's the hiring manager, right? So I just reach out to Dave, and we have a conversation. I'm like, look, why don't you come over and kind of hang out and, you know, get to meet our career seekers. Tell them a little bit about your organization. Boom. I don't know, within the next couple of weeks, you were over visiting and meeting with our career seekers, and that's just indicative of our interactions to this point. I ask him for a lot, and he delivers a lot. So when I put out the request for them to come on the show, I was hoping that it would be a quick response, and it was. He made it happen. So I'm just appreciative. I think if they put together a bunch of people like yourself and Ed, man, that's going to be an outstanding situation over there. And one of my students actually works for Benephilly. So I see it. She's a great person. She has a history of providing service. Her whole family, I think her sister's a physician. It's just what they do. So she works there for you guys, and the personality is a perfect match, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, and I think as we talk about being a career seeker and talking about, like, you know, how you can, you know, look at your LinkedIn profile and make a connection and tell your story, I think that's really, really important that people understand that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all people.
Sure.
And, you know, when you're walking in to do an interview or you're walking in to join a company, you know, we spend so much time together as like work people. So like me and Ed are always thinking, like, would we want to like hang out with this person, you know, consistently throughout the day and work with them? If the answer is yes, that's good. You know, if the answer is no, that's not good.
That's not the only thing.
That's not the only thing.
Well, you know what? J.T. O'Donnell from Careerism always says the three things that people get hired on are personality, aptitude, and experience. Personality meaning, can I be with this person for 8 hours today? And that's like the first thing. If you can't, it's not going to work. Yeah, you're not going to move forward. And I was thinking about that. Like, that's really true. You spend so much time at work. If I'm on the hiring side of it, I want to hire people that I would want to work with or hang out with, even for that matter. So I get it.
So you both, you mentioned that the company is growing. So what are some of the I don't want to say challenges, but some of in people who are applying to help fill some of these new roles that are coming up, what are some of the challenges that you've seen in some of the applications or in some of the conversations that you might have had with career seekers, where you might be able to give some advice to people to not do those kinds of things going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so me and Ed had the opportunity just last week. We, as an organization, would do what we call lunch and learns. And we invite all the staff to come. They're typically themed, and me and Ed had the opportunity to do like kind of a recruitment lunch and learn last week, and we gave some tips. And, you know, I think what we've really seen from applicants, and what I always really tell people, and Ed knows this, that I always say, but, you know, when it comes to interviewing, knowing that we want you to do well, and that knowing that whoever you're interviewing with wants you to do well and is rooting for you, because, you know, we're all recruiters in this room, and we know, like, we want to hire somebody.
Right.
Like, we want to
Sooner
hire
rather than later.
Sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Time to fill.
And you know, we find this, right, where people kind of walk into our doors, and, you know, there's some anxiety there, and that's natural. But I always tell people, like, my biggest advice is, you know, come in knowing that we want you to do well. You know, we are not hoping that you're going to fail, because we want to hire you.
We want you to
We want you to be the
We-
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So
Absolutely.
that's really like my biggest piece. And I think, like what you're talking about as a growing organization, if you're applying to an organization that's growing, really showcasing that you are adaptive and willing to change as the organization changes. We as an organization change very quickly. It's how we stay innovative. So, if you're not really comfortable with change, you may not do well in our environment or a growing organization environment. We're currently redoing a lot of our technological processes right now. There's a lot of change. So
I was going to say, with technology, it's inevitable. There's going to be change. I mean, to everything, the whole structure of a workday, possibly. So I get it.
Okay.
Absolutely, and I think of just another thing that came out of the lunch and learn that we spoke about pertaining to interviewees and things like that is that interviews aren't natural. It's not a natural social environment to be in. Where someone's
someone's firing questions at you, right?
I mean, it's interviews or being interrogated. I mean, that's really my reference points for someone, sitting down and asking me a bunch of questions. So it's kind of naturally uncomfortable. So, one of the important things that we've been trying to impart is prepare accordingly. If you can't really shoot from the hip, with a story, Ken, as you were mentioning, with a story that is a good anecdote to a question, then you need to have that prepared. You need to write that down ahead of time. You need to write many different stories, actually, before the interview. And it's not to say that you have a script that you're going to just repeat word for word, but it's just you have to treat this as a skill set. You have to treat interviewing as a skill set. Resume is the same kind of thing. So I think that those are some of the challenges and conversations that we've been having with a lot of people recently.
That makes sense, especially for the core of your business. People are on the phone in a very open conversation.
Right.
So you don't know what's coming from the other side of the phone. So how do you prepare for that? You guys were mentioning that you have no scripts.
There's some,
I mean,
not really.
So it's not anything that you're following. Right, exactly. It's a baseline. And so within that, you probably do look for people that don't get kind of caught on their words. They can they're very conversational in their presentation. I think that would probably be the ideal candidate for you guys in that particular position, just because you're speaking to somebody about securing more benefits in essence. And you're working kind of, you guys you're a not-for-profit, so you're working with people. I have a client, and that's their thing, and so everybody that comes to the door is going to get a very high level of service because it's the space they operate in. So every phone call you guys receive or make, there's a commitment to give a very quality call.
Well, I mean, one of our core values is we choose quality.
Yes,
it's like, there's no getting around that, and me and Ed always talk about it all the time, regardless of what position we're filling, it's, how are you going to bring quality work to the organization, not just like from a work perspective, but a culture perspective as well. We want really quality people to fill our cultural needs as an organization too. So, and I think that that begins and ends with also too how you apply to any job. Like how you're choosing quality when it comes to your cover letter and your resume. Are you taking that extra 2 minutes to make sure that there's no typos, that it's formatted right? Because that really speaks. That's your first impression.
Yeah.
So it's really important to really showcase that.
So you mentioned culture, and this sounds like something that's every organization has a culture, but not every organization puts it at the forefront of what they're looking for when they're trying to connect with candidates. So can either of you have a story, or, and we talked about stories as well, of someone who in an interview you could tell that this person would not fit with the culture of your organization, if there was something about that.
And we want their name and address.
What was it that, and it could have been, and you mentioned knowing that the interviewer wants you to succeed, but sometimes people even knowing that still sometimes miss the mark, and then just don't quite align in the interview.
I won't go through the entire thing, but it's kind of the counterpoint that I was speaking about before about the commitment. So I was in an interview one time, and the first thing I'm trying to figure out is how much do you care. So throughout the interview, we kept coming back to it, and I was wondering during the interview why we kept coming back to this thing. And at a certain point, I asked him a similar question about caring, and he gave an arrogant response, you know, to it, you know, where his skills were great, right, customer service, everything, but he didn't. It seemed like more of the self-gratification for him. Now, let me just make a statement.
Strangely, I don't remember
That's
interviewing over there.
No, let me just say.
It was Ken.
Cat's out the bag.
One of the great things about doing this work is feeling good about what you're doing. So that's not a disqualifier,
Right.
but it's the way you have that conversation, right? That's important. You know, it's one thing to say, "Hey, I want to serve," and it's great that I get to serve because it makes me feel like I'm doing something important, right? Than to say something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase, "These people are stupid anyway." That's a lot different.
That's different.
You want to help them, but you're coming from a condescending angle, right? So that specific kind of situation. That's not a culture fit. You know, if you're looking down on people who need help, even if it's inadvertently,
Right.
You might have to check that, you know, before you think about service.
And it's scary if that person might not even recognize that was how they were coming across.
And they probably did not, and
Right.
that's what I think is the important part about that, is that it was actually unconscious, and we had to dig it out.
Yeah, and you can't control for that once they're already on the phone with clients. It's too late at that point. It's too late.
And then you train them. There's so much involved.
Yeah.
So I have another question for you guys. So in your process, you know, someone applies to a job online with your organization. You guys start screening through the resumes, and you set that pile over that you say these are the people we're going to call. Do you do any type of Google search, social media search at that point, or do you do it once you get a little closer to the, like, do you even look at LinkedIn profiles? Like, I'm big on LinkedIn. As soon as I get a name, and if I want to move forward, I'm going to look at the LinkedIn profile just to make sure that it aligns with the resume.
Yes.
Okay.
We absolutely do that. It's really important because I think that people often assume that social media, it's like, you know, we're looking to see how you are in all facets. Because, like, once again, right, we're looking for really great people at the core of who they are. So, you know, you may think that, you know, well, I'm going to present myself in a certain way with my resume and cover letter, but I'm also a different person on Twitter, or I'm a different person on Facebook.
And my profiles are public, so you can tell, right?
Right.
Which is another issue, but
Exactly. And, you know, I think, like, you know, LinkedIn now is becoming a bit more like a Facebook. In a lot of ways, and I think people are starting to treat LinkedIn a little bit differently now, which has been kind of interesting to see.
Sure.
But you know, it's absolutely really, really critical. I mean, we have not hired individuals based off of social media presence.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
yeah,
You know, as much as you can tell people that that's real, that
people
happens,
don't believe it.
people still don't buy it.
They
I
don't
don't
believe
think.
it.
I'm like, trust me, I speak to hiring managers, hiring influencers.
Yeah, and it may seem unfair.
happens.
I think people feel it's unfair, but you know, it's unfortunate. You know, it's the way that kind of is now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing is that if the information is public, it's like, if you can type your name into Google and it pull up anything that is you can click on and brings you somewhere else, it's fair game, and that's not necessarily unfair. So you, as a career seeker, you have to be mindful of what you put out there, and know that. And even as I think about my own social media, like, tag, it's like, am I telling a consistent story?
Right.
So that if someone Googles me, they're not seeing, like you mentioned, two different personalities, and just like, well, who am I actually going to get if I decide to hire this person?
Yeah, you have to use it to leverage and create your brand.
Absolutely.
And that's a real thing. You know, well, we have a little bit of time, but Ed, I wanted to have a conversation because I think you have a story that is really important to our listeners. We do this every Wednesday, 4 to 5, here on WPPM 106.5 in Philly. We broadcast live on the East Coast Executives Facebook fan page. If you're even listening to the live stream at phillycam.org, this is a good time to tune in. Ed, if you don't mind telling the story about how you kind of positioned yourself for the current opportunity you're in at BDT. I just think it's a great story of how you strategically make things happen.
Sure.
I love this story.
Yeah.
I joined Benefits Data Trust about 2 years ago. And so I had come from a background working on political campaigns and some policy work, a little bit of policy work as well. And when I was moving back to Philly after that campaign was over, I wanted something that kind of combined direct service and policy. And I found Benefits Data Trust. I thought it was great. And I started working as a benefits outreach specialist, our main direct service role.
So on the phones. Like,
On the
right.
phones, talking to the clients, screening them, getting them applied for benefits, getting them squared away. Yeah. So started there, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do there yet. I was just trying to figure out, if I want to stay, and the answer was yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. So we got that cleared up. But then a policy coordinator position popped up, and I had some experience in policy. I said, hey, this might be a good opportunity to see what the rest of the organization has to offer. So I went out for it. The manager at the time, James, who I interviewed with, said I did a great job, but I didn't get the position. He told me who got the position, and I was like, okay, great, all right, this makes sense. Okay, I had to be humble, right? And then secondly, he gave me a piece of feedback that I immediately incorporated. He said, you did great. The only thing I want you to do is to not disappear. Everyone knows what it's like to not get a job that they interviewed for and then fall all the way back, right? He had the insight and wisdom to say, don't do that. You stay visible. You stay doing what you need to do. So essentially, I did that, and I started working on projects in HR. I mentioned to HR that I wanted to work with them. I thought it'd be interesting. I had some ideas about culture and stuff like that. So I made that known. And so Dave kind of brought me in career fairs, and we started to actually do a few interviews. Show me the ropes and things like that. So I got a chance to kind of revamp some of the forms we were using to basically streamline the interviewing process a little bit, reframe the questions and things like that. So I got a lot of experience well before I interviewed for my current position that allowed me to get it, essentially. I mean, they kind of saw the work I was doing. They already knew I was great as a benefits outreach specialist, floor leader, things like that. But I kind of took what I learned as a benefits outreach specialist, not the specific skills, but like the leadership, the initiative, things like that, and then I just translated that over for free, essentially. And I think, and I'm saying it that way because I think that sometimes you do have to do extracurricular things. Like, the day stops at 5, but if you're procuring your career, or curating rather, right? You're going to do those things to push you ahead in your career, and it was fun. So there was no dichotomy. There was not like I was forcing anything. It was great, and I was happy to interview with Dave and to be on the team.
I had a career seeker ask a company. I had a company visit my career seekers, and her question was to the employer, what do you do to motivate employees? And I was kind of pushed back by the question, like, well, they pay you, but there has to be an investment in yourself. You have to want to do things to get better for yourself, and that's the investment in being in an environment that allowed you to work on some of the other stuff. Like,
I never got that.
Yeah, right.
So it was like, why not?
Right.
You gotta own it.
You got to own it, and I think it's important because it's a two-way street. Because if you're at a company where you want to develop, let's say you're in a place where you did not receive that extra piece of advice, or a place where no one noticed this interest that you had and allowed you to participate in these opportunities, you're not able to cultivate that in the space that you're in, even if you want to. So it has to So you have to curate your own career in the sense that you're looking for these kinds of opportunities, and then be with an employer that will support you in that and allow you to kind of flourish inside of that environment.
Yeah, it's so much, it's so much more than the job sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
and that's what people have to understand.
And, and I would say too, just to add quickly to Ed's story, is that, like you said, it's a two-way street, and I think it's a two-way street for all managers in any company as well, that you also have to cultivate and curate your own talent. And keeping your eyes open. I mean, when I went to a career fair with Ed and saw the way he acted and saw the way he talked to people, I was like, that's pretty cool.
We got something.
So we I think we may have something there. So I was really able to kind of see that, and then his follow up and being able to work with me, like you said before you even got the job, really made a difference. So it is that two-way street. You have to engage as a person who wants to maybe move in an organization, but vice versa. You got to keep your eyes open to the talent.
That's awesome that you guys have that awareness.
So if you guys can let our listeners know how they can get in touch with you, how they can look for opportunities organizationally, we'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. So you can go to bdtrust.org, go to our career page. You can check out all of our open positions. Feel free to follow us both on LinkedIn. We're both really active on LinkedIn. We're always posting jobs on LinkedIn, what we have open. I myself have a Twitter. You can follow me at David M. Cullen 3. I post jobs on there as well.
Nice.
And you can see all my funny tweets. And on my great Instagram photos.
You know what?
Pretty great.
I'm going to follow you immediately because I bet you there is some funny
absolutely
stuff
should.
going on
You will
there.
be thoroughly entertained.
Talk to us, Ed.
And you can see all my London photos, and I highly recommend everybody go to London. It's really awesome.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
You absolutely
it's on
should
the
go.
bottom of the list, but it's there.
Some of those photos will make you upset. He's driving in some interesting cars.
I did drive. I was in a Maserati last time I was in.
Very well.
I'm just
See,
gonna say.
all right. Well, now I'm convinced.
Mr. Hamler.
Social media is a no-no, but you can hit me up at LinkedIn at Hamler.
LinkedIn,
Done.
Ed Hamler. Yes, they're both really active on LinkedIn, so please tune in and take a look, see what you find. What's going on with our friends at BDT. We'd like to thank you guys for coming out today.
Thank you.
It's the Career Seeker Show. We do it every Wednesday from 4 to 5 here on WPPM LP Philadelphia. On behalf of Philly Cam, the Career Seekers team, Tiffany Southerland, Alberta Bertolino, Will Martin, and myself, Kenneth L. Johnson, we'd like to thank the Facebook followers, all the listeners on 106.5 here in Philly. We love y'all. Philly Cam, the live stream, locks us in anywhere you're at. We do it there. Also, again, man, David Cullen, Ed Hamler, Benefits Data Trust. Next Wednesday, Tiff, I don't know who our guest is next Wednesday, but I think we'll pull it off.
I'll let you figure
Oh,
it
no,
out.
what? I'm sorry. We're not here next Wednesday.
We are not.
We are not here next
We are
Wednesday,
not.
but it's my understanding that we will be here in spirit because we're going to broadcast one of our other shows. So check us out next Wednesday. Lock us in. Hit us up on Twitter at US Career Seekers, at Tiff South, at KL Johnson Info. Again, it's the Career Seekers Show. We really appreciate you, Philly. Thank you so very much. Let's do it. Yo, Gee, is it a wrap?
It's a wrap, go.
Let's go. Good. All mics off. Good. Keep it running, Gee. Keep it running.
Another good week.
Yeah, right.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Love
Yeah, you guys
Thank
are
you guys.
great.
You guys were
No
great. You
problem.
guys were
Yeah, thanks. We're all right?
Absolutely.
All right.
I didn't want to put
Absolutely.
you on the spot, but I just love the story.
No, it's a
man.
great
I like the
story.
That's a great
And I like
story.
it's a good tie-in, you know. So I just said, you know what? I probably should have told Ed that I was going to ask him this before he
Okay,
came.
it's
No,
all right.
Ed
But-
just crushed it, Ed.
I freestyle sometime.
Yeah, but you know what?
That's a good
I said to
story.
myself, I said, we just talked about being able to run
Right.
with something on the cuff, so
Here
I
we
said,
are, right?
I said,
And it's a
yeah.
story that you've told before, which means you can tell it again.
Exactly. And I wrote it down.
I was also going to add too, but I didn't want to add it in the sense that I would seem biased through your process. But I essentially was like, at that career fair, I said to Ed, and I was like, so did you ever think about